This is Anthony Galliano for B2B Cambodia with a special tariff update. Tariff versus the courts. A three-judge federal court, the U.S. Court of International Trade, ruled unanimously in a 3-0 decision that the U.S. administration overstepped its authority to impose sweeping global tariffs and block most of the administration's tariffs. The court determined that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act does not grant the executive branch the power to unilaterally impose broad tariffs without congressional approval. On the 2nd of April, touted as Liberation Day, the administration announced reciprocal tariffs, imposing significant levies on imports from 90 countries and territories, but soon after implemented a 90-day pause on April 9th. The administration left in place universal tariffs of 10% on most goods coming into the United States. The case for the tariffs was a national economic emergency without Congress invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which gives the president the authority to act in response to unusual and extraordinary threats. The order holds 30% tariffs on China, 25% tariffs on some goods imported from Mexico and Canada, and the 10% universal tariffs on most goods coming into the United States. This includes 10% baseline tariffs on Cambodia. Other tariffs enacted under different statutes, such as for national security and unfair trade practices, remain unaffected by the decision. The administration promptly appealed the decision, asserting that the president's actions were justified under the national emergency provisions. The appeal process is going on and may ultimately reach the U.S. Supreme Court. As legal proceedings continue, the outcome of the appeal will be closely watched, given its significant implications for U.S. trade policy and executive authority. So what happens to the implementation of tariffs during the appeal? 1. Tariffs remain blocked, which is the default situation. The U.S. Court of International Trade has issued a permanent injunction, meaning the tariffs cannot be enforced while the ruling stands, unless a high court issues a stay of that injunction. The tariffs are paused or suspended throughout the appeal. 2. The government can request a stay and ask the appeals court to issue a stay on the injunction, which, if granted, would allow the tariffs to be reimposed temporarily while legal appeal is pending. Courts would consider factors like the likelihood of success on appeal and potential harm to national interest or the economy. 3. The appeal can also be upheld, canceling tariffs permanently if the appellate court upholds the lower court's decision. Then the Liberation Day tariffs are permanently invalid and refunds may be ordered for already collected tariffs. Finally, the appeal can be overturned, the ruling and tariffs reinstated. The appeal court can reverse the decision. The administration can reimpose the tariffs, possibly retroactively, depending upon how the court rules. If the U.S. government under this administration loses the appeal and does not accept the decision of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, the next and final step in this judicial process is the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will then decide whether or not to take the case. It is not obliged to. If it accepts the case, it will be fully reviewed and a final decision will be issued. If it declines, the appellate court ruling stands and the case is effectively over. The U.S. court ruling blocking tariffs may cause countries to pause, delay, or reconsider trade negotiations altogether. This has been Anthony Galliano for B2B Cambodia. Tariffs versus the courts.